LiveWell, Working Age and Retirement Benefits for People with Sight Loss, presented by Zsuzsi Szabo and Colin Daniels on the 14th of March 2024. About LiveWell. LiveWell is a series of events aimed at helping people make the most of life with sight loss. LiveWell is a collaborative project between 6 local independent sight societies. Cited by South Lakes, Cumbria, My Sight, Nottingham, Sight Airedale, the Airedale area, North and West Yorkshire, Support for Sight, Mid and West Essex, Sutton Vision, the London Borough of Sutton, and Outlookers, Huddersfield, West Yorkshire.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zsuzsi. I work for Support for Sight. I'm an employment manager, and we have Colin Daniels with us today, who's going to do a session with me on benefits for people who are in working age and also people who are in pension age, people who are registered blind and partially sighted people. Colin works for, as I said, for the Macular Society, and his job title is the Working Age and Young People Services Manager. So Colin, thanks so much for agreeing to have this session with me today.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. And just to let you all know, obviously this session is recorded and is going to be on YouTube in a couple of days' time. So hopefully that's all okay with everyone. And what we have, what I would like to do first of all is just find out from all of you who attended today if you have any specific question or anything why you joined this session that maybe you would like to tell us now, so we can ensure that we cover exactly why you are here today. Does anybody has any specific?
I think just about everything.
Okay, Peter, that's great. Okay, so what we want to do is, obviously I know there is a few people here who are in working age as well, so would that be okay if we quickly go through the working age benefits that you can claim if you are blind and partially sighted people, and then obviously we're going to go to the pension age, if that's okay. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, thank you.
One question that I had was, I've got a lady she's 64, self-employed, and she wants to know if access to work would be available, if access to work, if she can access it.
Yes.
Or is there an age limit?
No, there is no. Actually, Colin and I had a conversation today. I had a gentleman last year who I supported. He was 74, and Colin, your oldest client is 83?
83.
So yeah, as long as you are working. I mean, with the self-employment, really quickly regarding access to work, they just need to be earning just over the ESA amount, which is around £7,000 a year. So as long as their business is making a profit, they are eligible for access to work support. And their age is not an issue because obviously, I mean, strictly speaking, there is no retirement age as such. You don't have to retire. It's just you could or you can at certain age. But if you want to carry on working, you can. Yeah.
Thanks. Excellent.
Okay, so Colin, shall we have a little chat about firstly working age people? What is the like people who are, let's say, who are not in work, what they can claim?
So there's the in-work benefits and out-of-work benefits. So we'll quick chat about people in work because it covers people out of work as well. So the main benefit people should really consider claiming if they have sight loss, it helps if you're registered but you don't need to be, is personal independence payment, which we know as PIP. It's a new style of benefit. It's been in for quite a while, but it's still classified as fairly new. It replaced disability living allowance about 10 years ago, and this is a benefit that pays for the additional costs of having a long-term illness or disability. You have to be over 16 and under pension age. And I say pension age because, as we know, pension age is changing. At the moment, it's 66 and about 4 months, and it's moving up to 67, where men and women will be at the same level, and then it will probably move up to 68, and then probably beyond that going forward. But that's not been written down anywhere yet, but it's just a hunch of mine. So personal independence payment is for between 16 and pension age. It's made up of 2 components, the daily living component and the mobility component. and each component has two levels, standard and enhanced. So you can either be entitled to or be awarded rather both components, just one component at one rate and another component at another rate, or a mixture of all four. So generally, we're expecting people who are registered as severely sight impaired to be on enhanced and enhanced, and people who are on who are registered sight impaired really should be on enhanced rate of the daily living and standard rate of mobility as a rule, but it does change it. I mean, it does very much depend on your vision, what kind of vision loss you have. The benefit itself is based on descriptors, so you have to score points against these descriptors and activities. So there are 10 activities in the daily living component and 2 activities in the mobility component. To get the standard rate, you need to score 8 points, and to get the enhanced rate, you need to score 12 points. Now, in the daily living component, there are activities like preparing a simple meal, eating that simple meal, medication, using the loo, washing, dressing, reading, engaging with other people, budgeting, and communication. That's all of them. I did quite well then. I remembered them all. And for most people with sight loss, we should be thinking about 3 of those, which is reading, because reading happens everywhere. And if you use an electronic device or someone reads for you because you have limited vision, you'll automatically score 8 points, which gets you onto the standard rate of PIP in the daily living component immediately. So all we've got to do is find 4 little points somewhere else, and then you'll get the enhanced rate. And generally, most people struggle in the kitchen when they have sight loss with things like reading labels, sell-by dates, packets and tins, seeing if your food is cooked. So you might use an aid or an appliance. And if you use an aid and appliance to help you do that, you'll score 2 points. And if you need human support from maybe a partner or a friend or a housemate, then you'll score 4 points. And there you go, you'll get 12. So, and then and then engaging with other people, that's about social support, blind and partially sighted people. So if you need a bit of a support when you're socially engaging, so if someone tells you, oh, George is over there, that's social support. Or if George comes over and says, hi, it's George, that's also social support. And it's about anxiety and things like that. So if you feel anxious when you're meeting new people or engaging with other people, then you'll score some points. I mean, you may score some other points in other places if you've got other conditions, but for blind and partially sighted people, that's kind of where we're looking. So as you can see, if you're partially sighted, sight impaired, and you use an aid or a magnifier to read, you'll probably score 4 points. So, you know, there's areas to look at. Now, the things we need to consider is if you can do those activities in 4 ways, whether you can do them to a good standard, repeatedly, in a timely manner. So does it take you longer than it used to when you had average sight? And can you do it safely? All right. So if you're ticking those boxes and you're using an aid and appliance or sighted support, then you'll score some points in those areas, or should anyway. And for the mobility component, there's 2 questions, but the one we're concerning ourselves with is something called planning a journey. And again, it's 8 points for the standard rate and 12 points for the enhanced rate. And it does actually talk about unfamiliar and familiar routes. So if you need to use a person, a guide dog or a mobility aid on a familiar route, and you can show that and evidence that, you'll score 12 points, the enhanced rate, bish bash bosh, off you go. And if you need support, but that kind of support, so a person, sighted guidance, a guide dog or a mobility aid in unfamiliar areas, you should be able to, that will automatically score you 10 points. So again, you'll just evidence it. So as you can see, it's quite a good benefit, but the difficulty most people have when claiming it is they don't evidence it enough. So when you complete the form, it's worth having a conversation with someone like me or somebody from Support for Sight or your local societies, just to ask the best way to fill it in. because writing a list of I can't do something isn't good enough. You need to tell them why you can't do it and what happens if you try. So you're evidencing your claim. We haven't got a lot of time today, but there's I've just done some podcasts on how to claim PIP, which you can find on all good platforms. So it's a Macula and Me podcast, bite-sized benefits, we're calling it. So there's 3 podcasts that I've done on PIP quite recently. Sorry, that's a bit of a plug there, Zsuzsi.
That's all right. That's fine. I'm happy for you to advertise your services on my brands. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, good, excellent.
Good. Okay, thank you. So this is for people just generally who have a sight impairment, and as Colin said, you don't have to be registered, but obviously because you need to send some evidence, is the best if you have some kind of documents at least that you can submit with the form. To say that you are obviously experiencing difficulties, and this is not means tested and not contribution based, so you get it whether you are in work or you're not working, providing you are a person living with a disability.
Yes.
So people who are in work and work full time cannot still apply for PIP and get the enhanced rate.
Absolutely, and the rates are reasonable actually at the moment. So the awards are good. So if you get enhanced, it's at £691 every 4 weeks at the moment. So it's a good chunk of money. And also the other thing that's important to say is that it's called a passporting benefit. So if you're out of work and claiming other benefits, it can then get you other entitlements for other benefits. So it's a very useful benefit to claim. And if you're finding that your sight loss is impacting on your life in every day and throughout the day, it's worth just writing a little daily diary of those impacts, what they are. And if there's a good strong list of when people are helping you, or you're using a magnifier, or you're using a piece of electronic equipment, and there's a good, then apply, because those are the things that will help you get the benefit.
Great. Okay.
So if
go on.
Well, no, go on. Zsuzsi,
I just wanted to say really quickly, I know that some people get support, obviously, filling out the form, which is absolutely fine. But what I encourage to do, or what I encourage my clients to do and how I support them, I make sure even if I would be filling out the form, I kind of go through the form, explain to them what the requirements are, what they should think about, maybe responding, but I let them kind of just dictate to me what they want to be on the form, because it's important that the person is always owning that form, is their vocabulary, is their real difficulties. So if you get a professional writing it up for you, you can run into the difficulties when you have to go for an assessment. That form doesn't actually mean too much for you.
It's absolutely true. I think it's very important that people are empowered to write their own, to use their own words. I completely agree.
Somebody can just write it up for you, but it's the best if you dictate that how I feel about my disability is, and this is how it's affecting me, rather than I came across many times with clients who got turned down. And I read the original form, and they were using words that they didn't even know what they mean. So it's just, just be honest and just kind of explain it with your own words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Colin.
Can I just add something there?
Yes, Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. I'm Macular Society Counselling Service. Not advertising, but
that's
to
fine.
Let you know.
That's cool.
Just to say that often we work with people who are applying for PIP or attendance allowance, and something that I've found is where you're being asked questions about what you can do, like Colin's mentioned, or can you prepare a meal, and can you get yourself dressed, and quite often I think people are ticking the boxes to say, yes, I can do all of those things, but I'm not sort of explaining, like what Colin says, sort of the difficulty involved with having to prepare that meal, or perhaps the risks involved, or whether they've cut themselves, or is it difficult to do up buttons or match colours, or whatever it might be. I think sometimes people are very quick to say, yes, I can do all of those things, because they can, but not thinking about how much difficulty is involved compared with somebody who doesn't have a sight problem.
I think you're absolutely right. And I found over the 15 odd years that I've been doing this, that the people that are most guilty of that, if that guilty is the right word, is older people claiming attendance allowance. And that's what's so important, why it's so important to do that daily diary, because what that daily diary does is, if you write down every time that your vision loss or your other illnesses and disabilities affect you and impact on you, that actually what you're doing is you're making a list of the things that you're struggling with, and they're the things that you can put into the form. So when you actually sit down to do the form, you can use it as an aid memoir to actually write it down. And also that helps people like me. So if you do go and end up getting turned down, and then you go through what's the mandatory reconsideration and maybe even appeal, you can actually use that daily diary as evidence for that. And then the person that's the professional that's supporting you to do that next bit has got some place to start. So it is about actually being incredibly honest with yourself and the form.
Yeah.
And that can be very, very difficult to do. And they're not the most pleasant benefits to claim, because you have to be honest with yourself and the form.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll be unsuccessful.
Yeah, 100%. And also I always ask my clients to kind of just go back to the day when they first had, or the last time they had foresight, and compare how they are now compared to that day.
Yeah.
And then all the adjustments you made. The very fact that you had to make adjustment is already a reason why you should get a PIP. So just go back to the days like when you could get up, get dressed, get in your car, and drive to work, and you could just work. And
the other thing we need to stress here, though, Zsuzsi, the other thing that we really need to stress here is that lots and lots of people say, you'll go onto lots of different Facebook forums and groups and things like that for sight loss. And people will say, just tell me like it's your worst day. And you shouldn't do that. And the reason that you shouldn't do that is because your worst day may be once every 3 to 4 months. And so actually the majority of what you believe is a good day is actually not a good day. It's a bad day compared with someone with average health. So and it's consistent. So you're not lying or committing fraud, because that's when you say your worst day, you are actually committing fraud. So you have to be very careful. So it's my biggest bugbear on those forums. When I read it, I will always say never use your worst day, and I explain it exactly just as I have. If you think about your average day, before you had your sight loss, and your average day now, that is a bad day for most people with average sight. So you just use that, and it's consistent. Thank
you, Colin. What I would like to do, if nobody has a question, or does any of you have a question on PIP? Probably not. Okay. Can we please move on quickly for the job seekers benefit when somebody's working age but unable to work? And can we just spend maybe 5 minutes on this, Colin, or not even?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So really quickly.
And then we can go to the other benefits. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there's basically 3 benefits that you can claim for if you're out of work and looking for work. So there's job seekers allowance. So everyone's entitled to job seekers allowance. So it lasts 6 months. It's based on your contributions that you've paid in national insurance. So perhaps you've worked in the past. And if you paid enough national insurance contributions, which we haven't got time to explain, then you can go on to job seekers allowance. It's at the moment it's about, I think it's £91 a week. It's not huge amounts of money, but you have to. But there's lots and lots of restrictions to it and things that you have to do. So you have to be very active looking for work. You'll be supported by a job coach at the job centre. But for me, the majority of blind and partially sighted people should not be on job seekers allowance. They should be on something called employment or new style employment and support allowance. Because what new style employment and support allowance does is it actually takes a bit of the pressure off, so that it's a bit of a difficult benefit to claim, because again, there's an assessment and you have to fill out a medical form, and it is horrible. It's a horrible form to fill out. Of all the forms it is, it's the worst one to fill out, I think. But it just explains how your difficulties with your sight loss impacts on your day to day from a working point of view. Some of the questions don't appear very worky, but they kind of are designed to indicate how you would how you would be in the workplace. He says, stumbling over his own teeth. So there's things like, crossing the road and picking things up and reading and things like that, again in the form. And then there's a bit of an assessment, and you'll either be placed in one or two groups, which I'm going to use the old style names because they're a lot easier for people to understand, which is called the work activity group, and then the support group, work related activity group. Now, the work related activity group, you'll have to do what's work related activity, which is things like CV writing, interview techniques, cover letters, job seeking, but you'll be supported by a company or the job centre, depending on what part of the country. Well, you live in Essex, so I don't know what it's like in Essex, but you'll be supported by people for those kind of things, and you have to do it. You have to engage, otherwise you may lose the benefit or will be sanctioned. But the majority of people, there's not a lot of pressure on that. So and the rules are still the same. You have to do this 4 times in a year, so it's not too bad really. So you as long as you're seen to do that, you're in the work-related activity group. Now, the thing is, the work-related activity group is the same amount of money as job seekers allowance now, but it does last longer. It lasts a year because it's contribution-based. Now, if you find yourself in the other group, which is the support group, you can do as much or as little or no work-related activities as you like. So you can just sit back, and it's a little bit more money, and they kind of leave you alone. They will occasionally write to you and say, how are you getting on? Do you fancy some support looking for work? Because the employment support allowance is supposed to encourage people to get into work. Again, so what we try and do is get everybody into the support group and question why. So, and generally, it's another points-based benefit. And if you can show that that you're quite a distance from work, and you fit kind of in the grey area, you'll score enough points to get into that support group. And just because you're a bit further away from work than most people, if you can show that you're a risk to others at work or yourself at work, in however that might be, then you'll find yourself in the support group. So again, it's just about getting the right support to make an effective claim. And I know Zsuzsi helps people do that. So
I do, yeah.
So it's a good benefit, and it does give people the support, but it also takes the pressure off, so you don't get all the hassle that you would with job seekers allowance.
Yeah, the only downside with this is contribution based, so you have to be paying in enough national insurance contribution the last 2-3 years, and that's where I have issues, for example, with clients who are on ESA. They want to go to work, and I'm debating whether they should. Are they going to be okay? What the job is? If they're not paying enough national insurance, then they come off from the benefit, and then are they going to be able to go back? And it kind of leaves people a little bit vulnerable.
It does a little bit. You're right.
Yeah, but it's good. Thanks. Are we going to talk about universal credit?
I think only really briefly. I think
2 minutes.
It's a massive benefit. And
we need a week for that.
We need a week for that.
And we don't even understand it, so let's just...
Okay, so universal credit is a means tested benefit. So it matters how much money that you have. So it matters what money you've got coming in. So if you've got I don't know, maybe I don't know. So if you've got some money, so you've got a partner who's working, their money counts. So it all becomes very complicated, but it covers things like money in your pocket. Oh, can you please mute? Money in your pocket. So spending money, day-to-day money. It covers housing benefits. It covers rent, and it will cover mortgages as well. But after a year trying to persuade the bank not to foreclose on you. So it's very complicated. So it also it gives you additional money for different parts of your life as well. So if you've got kids, children, you'll get a bit more money. If you've got caring responsibilities, you'll get a bit more money. There are some uplifts for disability now, but they're not as big as they used to be, which is where that PIP award does help. And there's also most of it's done online. So through the Universal Credit Portal, which is amazingly accessible, even for screen readers. It's a bit clunky and it does take time. So if you do find yourself on Universal Credit, then you can use your job coach at the library, at the job centre to help you do that, just to use it. And it's important to say, actually, if you find yourself needing to claim Universal Credit, the Citizens Advice Bureau have a contract with DWP to help you do the starting claim. So if you do find yourself needing to claim it, just talk to CAB, and they will help you do the claim to the point where you start getting paid. After that, you're left to your own devices, but they do have a contract to do that.
Thank you, Colin.
Yeah.
Okay, so next one, so this is kind of the working age benefit so far in terms of what you can apply for from the government in terms of the benefit support. And then what we're going to talk about now is what you can apply for when you are pension age. And if you can just really talk about, please, attendance allowance and pension credit and the triple lock, which is what I heard from you first time ever in my life. And please, that would be great. And also, can I just clarify something, because I'm already confused about this age. So if somebody, the pension, so what I would like to know, that if somebody is applying for attendance allowance, but they're not yet pensionable age, but they will be maybe in 6 months later, should they still apply for PIP? Over to you anyway.
Yeah, so if you are under pension age, claim PIP.
Okay.
I don't care if you're a day under pension age when you make that phone call to PIP. Okay.
Sorry, I have to interrupt. When you make the phone call for PIP to get the form, that's already your day one, is it? When you apply for it, so it doesn't matter that you're actually going to get something in 2-3 months' time.
No,
the day you call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the day you call, that is your initial start date of the claim. So, and it's important actually, because PIP pays more money than attendance allowance.
Yeah.
So and actually PIP is easier to claim with sight loss than attendance allowances. So let's start off with pension age. So the pension age is moving. It is a movable feast. As I said, it's 66 in about 4 months at the moment, and it is moving up, slowly moving up. And the men and women at the moment are pretty much in line with each other, and it's moving up together to 67, where it's going to stop, and then it's going to move to 68 at some point. Whichever government decides to do that, it's already in the legislative book, so it's going to happen. Just a matter of when, and then it wouldn't surprise me if it went up to 70 at some point. That's just my personal feeling. So it's important to know when your pension age is, because it helps with claiming benefits. So on the DWP, on the government website, on the DWP website, if you just Google pension age calculator, you can put your date of birth in there, and it will tell you when your pension day is. I don't want to look at it because it will make me feel sad, because I'm only 51, and it tells you exactly when you're going to retire, unless I win the lottery tomorrow. So it's just a good thing to do, because it'll tell you exactly when your retirement age is going to be. And after pension age, the disability or the long-term illness and disability benefit is called attendance allowance. Now, attendance allowance has been around for forever. Again, it's a non-means tested benefit. It doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank, what monies you're getting in from pensions. It just doesn't matter. You're still entitled to make a claim. If you fit the criteria and you're awarded attendance allowance, again, it is a passporting benefit. So it will open the door to other benefits. So,
sorry, I'm on DLA, and I get letters through telling me all about different, attendance allowance and PIP and everything. And right on the very last page, it'll say, if you're on DLA, you don't have to do anything.
yeah, you don't. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
79.
Yeah, then you don't. So you were obviously awarded disability living allowance before your pension age, whenever that was, 65 or whatever it was back.
Yeah.
And once you're on disability living allowance or PIP now, you will remain on that into your pension over pension age. So you don't have to change.
Right.
So you're on an old legacy benefit. The only difference, difficulty would be that if you're on disability living allowance and you were, I don't know, registered sight impaired when you claimed, and now you're off pension age, and became severely sight impaired, you wouldn't be able to do a change of circumstances on your mobility component. Your mobility component wouldn't be looked at, but your daily living component could be looked at. Say if you were on lower rate and you wanted to find yourself on middle rate.
Yes, I found that out when the RNIB said they've got people onto the high level mobility. And then I found out it didn't apply to me because I was too old.
No. So attendance allowance is at 2 levels. Okay, it's on 2 components. There's only one component, and it's a low and higher rate. Okay, and it's important to think about the support how and when you need the support that you get, to which rate that you'll get. So it says the rules say, do you need support during the day or night? And if it's day or night, you'll probably be awarded lower rate. And if it's day and night, so that's care or supervision, day and night, you will get could get the higher rate. Now this is a form that's incredibly difficult to fill in. It's a paper-based form, paper-based claim. So everything goes in the form, and then you send additional evidence with the form, and the decision is made purely on that. So there's no assessments, there's no, very rare that a medical practitioner will get involved. It does happen occasionally, but it's incredibly rare. So it's very, very important that, like PIP, you explain what's going on in your life and how you're affected functionally by your sight loss, other disabilities, and also your age. So if you're particularly you're a bit older than most when making the claim, there are things that you're unable to do purely and simply because of your age, and those things count. And again, this is where that daily diary comes in. So if you write the daily diary and get support to fill in the form, that gives the person helping you fill in the form the ability to see where you need those things. And as Suzanne said, it's important that you really understand what you're struggling with. So, for example, if you're struggling to get your jumper on over the top of your head because of your arthritis, or maybe you're finding it harder to bend down to put your socks on. So it's all those things, those little things that happen to people that are just a bit older, count, because then if you compound it together, not being able to see so well, so not seeing where your clothes are or what kind of clothes, or if they're dirty or maybe a bit, if they're not ironed or they look a bit old and there's a stain or something on them, then all those things added up together. Now, the funny thing about attendance allowance is things like cooking and walking outside, going out and about, doesn't count. So you have to find ways of putting that in. So in the attendance allowance form, there's a question about your leisure activities, hobbies and leisure activities. So in there, you can add your cooking. So you can talk about cooking. So if you like to bake, or even if you did like to bake, even if you're not doing it anymore, you could explain in there how you used to cook and used to really enjoy it, but you need loads of sighted support to do it. And there's a question about walking around, but indoors. And it actually says in brackets, and we just don't, this doesn't just mean the place where you live. So you can talk about walking around the supermarket, hospitals, just out and about anywhere really, but as long as it's indoors. And you can talk about stairs and steps and lighting and all of those kind of things in there. So you're not really explaining about how your mobility outside, but you're talking about your mobility indoors but away from the house. Everybody thinks they read the form and they think that I can do most of this. So there's questions around. So if the first question on the form, when you start talking about your difficulties, is about getting in and out of bed. Now, the majority of people will say that they can do that with sight loss. But actually, I would argue that actually the getting in and out of bed doesn't start in the bedroom. It starts when you decide to go to bed. So it's getting out of the chair, then getting up the stairs, locking up, do you leave the lights on so you can get up and down the stairs? Do you leave the lights on so you can move around in the night if you need to get up and use the loo? Do you lay your bedclothes out before you go to bed so they're already done? All those things. And then when you get up in the morning, do your eyes work immediately or do you need to give them time? So you sit on the edge of the bed for 15 minutes waiting for your body to catch up with itself. Do you flop down into the bed rather than lower yourself down? So there's loads of things to consider when you're filling in these forms. So it's very quick and easy to say, no, I'm all right with that and moving on. But actually, when you think about it in a little bit more detail, you can think about those areas where you struggle. So everybody says, everyone, so big grown-up people, you can use the toilet on your own, which is, most people can, and some people can't, but the majority of people can. But what about outside of the house? When you need the loo, can you see the toilet signs? Do you need to ask someone to show you where the toilets are in a restaurant, or maybe at the eye clinic if you can't see the sign? So all those kind of things can sort of compound together to help you have a good claim for attendance allowance. And it's just over £60 a week for the lower rate, and it's £101 a week for the higher rate. So it's a good benefit to have. And as I say, it does open the door to other benefits, which we'll talk about in just a second. So
yeah,
that's a really quick chat about attendance allowance. Has anyone got any questions?
no, that doesn't seem like. Just want to say, Colin, we only have 15 minutes left from the session.
Okay, good, perfect. So, and I've got about 10 minutes. So, yeah. So I will say though, if you need help with your attendance allowance form, the best people, in my opinion, to help you with your attendance allowance forms is Age UK. Most Age UKs have a welfare rights person or a department, and they're very good at filling the forms in. They're very used to doing it. And if it does go wrong, they will also take you through mandatory reconsideration and even up to appeal. So it's well worth thinking about using Age UK to help fill in attendance allowance forms. And also DWP have a home visiting service. So if you're local, because I know Essex is a big place and there's lots of different Age UKs floating around it. So if they're going to take a bit of a long time, then just talk to DWP and they will send the home visiting service around to help you fill the form in, and they are allowed to help. So they will actually ask you wider questions on the questions that you're completing. So there's just two ways to get that form filled in. Right. So now the majority of people who are older have a state pension. Not everybody, but 95% of people do. That's because you paid your national insurance stamp after the war and from 1947, and that's built into the welfare system and a state pension. Now, sometimes just because of the way the world used to be, some women mostly got what was called a dependence rate, so they got a lower amount. So their stamps were paid by their husbands, or partners, and they got a smaller pension because of pension pot because of that. But if the person worked, then they've got a full pension as well. Now the government say that pensioners or people of a pension age need to live on a certain amount of money a week, right? Which is £201 if you're a single person, or £306 if you're a couple. And that you don't have to be married, by the way, and so you just have to be living with someone. It's £306. So if your pensions, your state pensions and private pensions added up together do not add up for as a single person to £201 or a couple to £306, you will get some pension credit. Now, there are a couple of caveats to that. So if you've got a lot of money in the bank, then you might be entitled to something called savings pension or pension savings credit. And the taper for that is very fast. There is no upper limit, they say, but if you've got £10,000 and above, your pension credit will soon start to run out. They'll, very quite quickly. So there is a point where they don't pay you any money. But if it's under 10 grand, you will still get some pension credit to take you up to that those minimum pension guarantees. Okay. But pension credit can also be increased by attendance allowance. So if you claim attendance allowance, you will get what's called the disability premium added to your minimum pension guarantee, which is an additional £62. So for a single person, that would take your minimum payment up to £263. So again, if your pension credits, if your state pension and your private pension at the time was £207, let's just say, and then you've got attendance allowance, you've still got some area for pension credit because you're still under that £263 threshold. Okay. So pension credit may come at that point. And it's the same with as a couple. So if one person has attendance allowance and the other person is looking after them, then they will get the carers premium, which is about £57, I think. Am I making that up? I think it's somewhere around there anyway. And so that again, so if your pensions don't quite add up to that new level of let's just say £360, then you'll get made up with pension credits or pension savings credit, depending on the level of saving. Now, the thing about pension credit is that it's a means-tested benefit. So if you get pension credit, it will then open the door to other benefits. So housing benefit, for example. So if you rent your property, either privately or through a social landlord, then you will get maybe get some support with pension, with housing payments or your rent. And you'll also get some support around paid with your council tax, which is great because they're generally the most biggest expenses that people have. You'll also get over the age of 75, if you've got pension credit, you'll get a free TV license. Obviously, everybody who's registered severely sight impaired, from babies right up to pension age. If you're registered severely sight impaired, you get a half-price TV license. So that's the thing. So if you've got a child who's registered as severely sight impaired, and nobody else in the household is, put the TV license in their name because you'll get a half-price TV license because there's no age limit. So that's it's just one of those little anomalies. So pension credit is a really good thing because it obviously increases people's money. Now, the triple lock. Everyone hears this phrase. Every benefit and every pension goes up, and it goes up by the rate of inflation generally. But for pensions, for state pensions, there is this thing called the triple lock. Now, the triple lock basically protects older people for that minimum pension guarantee. So that £201 or the £306. So it will go up either, your pensions will always go up either by 2.5% by the rate of inflation or the average rate of wage increases. So the percentage rate of national wage increases. That's the triple lock, and whichever is the higher of the three. So when the triple lock was created back in 2008 or 9, 10, somewhere around there, it was the Tory government when they got in after New Labour, when they popped it in, inflation was really low, so they set that thing at 2.5%. So it always went up by 2.5%. So if we all remember back this time last year, when the government were being really goaded by Labour to say, are you going to put it up by inflation? They had to, because the triple lock was in place. So everybody's pension went up by just under 10%, and so did everybody's benefit. But it's the triple lock is that. So, and it's very important because most people of pension age, they want to be, the government, all successive governments want to protect those people the most. So that's how the triple lock works. So 2.5% up by inflation rate or up by the average wage increase percentage, whichever is the higher of the three. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks,
Perfect.
Colin. We only have 8 minutes, but I still want to go through the concessions quickly.
Okay.
So, and then obviously I would like that to be like a minute each, if that's okay, or I can just do it if you want, and then I just want to have a bit of a time for questions. Or
yeah, you can do that. You quickly wisdom because you can read them off.
Well, yeah, I can read it. So basically, then just really quickly. So that was kind of the benefits, and then we have concessions that blind and partially sighted people can claim for or apply for. Actually, I think is the better word, and it's depending on what is your registration. So whether you are SI, sight impaired, or whether you are SSI, which is severely sight impaired. This is kind of the new name that we're using these days, but before it was partially sighted or registered severely sighted, registered blind, but now the new PC politically correct words are sight impaired or severely sight impaired. So I'm just going to read that out if that's okay. So if you are registered severely sight impaired, you can apply for a blue badge. You can apply for a TV license, 50%, as Colin just mentioned. If you are in working age and you're still working, or you have a partner, or you're married, or you have a civil partner who's in work, then you can apply for a blind person tax allowance as well. And you will have free prescription, free eye test, and as Colin said, your OCT, so the retina image is not free. You have to pay for that separately, but you are entitled to free eye test at your local optician. You can apply for a free bus, but it's worth mentioning that it doesn't call the free bus everywhere, but anyway, we just call it, so you can use the buses for free, and you can use it as well. You can apply for a disabled way card, which is not free, but I think is around £20 a year. Is it, Colin?
Yeah, £20 a year or £50 for 3 years.
So it's not too expensive, but it's not totally free. But obviously, once you have a disabled railway card, then you get or you're traveling in reduced price. If you're joining leisure activities, like a local leisure centre and stuff, that you can usually go in with on the disabled rate, and usually carers go in free, and that applies for cinemas and leisure centres, and if you want to go swimming and that kind of thing. So usually, yeah, you get those. And there is also something which is not many people know about, is kind of a stamp that you can use in envelopes, and it's called Articles for the Blind. So you can apply for those, and then you can send out free post. But actually, the reason for this is that you should be receiving, so you can send out letters and what have you, and also receive anything that you might order, let's say from a local society, and then they can use Articles for Blind sticker, and there is no postage need to be paid for those items. Okay, so that's the severely sight impaired, and one of the main important thing here is the blue badge, I think, and that's what confuses most of our clients, is it, Colin? Because when you are partially sighted, or sight impaired, you don't get the blue badge.
You don't get the blue badge.
Unless you have any additional difficulties or disabilities that would have an impact on your mobility. But that's usually where people go wrong. They just apply as soon as they become registered, and it does matter which one you are in terms of whether you're going to get it or not. So when you are sight impaired or odd language, partially sighted, you will have a bus positive. You can apply for that. You can apply for, obviously, the disabled rate card. You can still have free prescription, free eye test, and the leisure activities usually are the same, so they don't differentiate between sight impaired and severely sight impaired people. The main difference, really, it is the blue badge, I would say, and obviously the TV license. So if you
and blind person's tax allowance.
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, you don't get the blind person tax allowance, you don't get the blue badge, and you don't get your TV license reduced. So kind of there's the difference between being registered sight impaired and severely sight impaired.
I just to also say that the blind person's tax allowance is paid to a blind person who is working. But if a blind person is not working and they're married and in a civil partnership,
yeah,
they transfer it across to their partner.
I said that. Yeah. Okay, so that's basically yes, Peter.
I've still got the blind person's tax allowance.
Yeah. Sorry, I misworded, Peter. I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely. Thank you for addressing that. Yes. So everybody pays tax. So if you're registered as severely sight impaired and you're paying pensions, you're paying tax on your pensions or your savings or anything like that. Just claiming blind person's tax allowance can also, you should get it and reduce that. So if you're not working and your partner is, however, it's worth trying to work out who's going to save the most. Thank you for yes, Peter, thank you for sorting that out.
So you mentioned about free prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Is that medication or is that just glasses?
Your medication as well.
I wasn't aware of that.
I think so. Anyway, Colin, am I right?
Yeah, medicated. So you won't get free glasses. Nobody gets free glasses.
You get a
voucher, don't you?
Yeah, voucher, and then I think it's like up to £25 or something for your lenses.
So
what about for actual drugs?
For medication, yeah. So you need to. There's a form that if you ask your pharmacist, if you are not your pharmacist, ask your doctor for a free prescription form. Okay, they've all got them. It's only one sheet of paper, and there's various questions on there. And one of them is, can you get to the can you get to your pharmacy unaided? Just tick that box. And just explain to your doctor that you can't go to the pharmacist without support from a sighted person, and that is the box that you tick. The doctor needs to sign it and send it off. You can't send it off, and you'll get a medical exemption for card through.
Yeah,
excellent.
And so, when you go into your local opticians, usually they have what they used to call the NHS frames, so you can choose something, kind of like a simple frame, and then they have a kind of an up to certain amount that they would provide. But obviously, if you're going for a lens that is really, I don't know, high functioning and it has all the coating and have this and that, and it costs, let's say £200, and then you choose a Gucci glasses, for example, for £300, then obviously that's not going to be free. But you could basically get away with the simple lens with simple coating and in a really simple frame, not literally for free, but with you used to be able to maybe pay £5 extra and then had your prescription glasses for free, including the frame. But now with the prices going up, I think it's just a bit of a as Colin said, that you can claim towards the cost of your glasses, but it wouldn't cover it these days. So actually, we finished the session bank on 11 o'clock. So thanks, Colin, for obviously your time and your input. You were great as always. Thank you. I'm just wondering if any of you have any questions.
She's disappeared. I can't see her on the screen.
Oh, okay. Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just going to say thank you, Colin, for sort of running through everything. It's really good to sort of have a reminder, because sometimes it's a bit confusing. And I think if it's confusing for us working with people, it must be really confusing when you're the person who's deciding what to claim. So yeah, thank you to both of you. I've got an 11 o'clock appointment, so I will go.
See you,
But yeah, that was
Suzanne.
really interesting. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming. See you next time.
Pleasure. See you soon.
Bye. Bye. I don't know if Pierre or Vicky's still on the call, or
Yeah,
Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
Vicky. Hi.
Oh, right, I'm on my laptop. Yeah, no, it's quite interesting about the free prescriptions, because I've been asking about that for the last 25 years and I've been told I'm not eligible.
Oh,
Well, are you registered sight impaired or severely sight impaired?
No, severely sight impaired, and I have been
Then
for
go
25
and
years.
speak. Yeah, go and speak to your doctor.
Right,
Everybody,
that's a mistake.
the thing that people do, and what tends to happen is people ask their pharmacist, and then the pharmacist will give you what's called an A1 form. You'll fill it in, and it will come back and it will say no. But if you ask the doctor,
Yeah, I will next time.
okay, it's just and generally, it's honestly it's like a pad, like with it stuck together, and they fill it in for you, and the doctor has to sign it.
Yeah, because I was told this right back at the start, and every time I've asked, it's like no, 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 no. So I've been asking the wrong people.
You've been So ask, yeah.
So that's
if
brilliant. Thank you, Colin.
any problems, give me a shout.
I will. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. Pierre, any question? Don't even know if he's still.
No, really simple one. I just need to look into it. I claim PIP, and that doesn't stop me from, if I don't need to at the moment, I don't really want to, but if claiming PIP doesn't stop me from claiming other benefits.
No, in fact, it helps.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't at all.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
PIP is not means tested. It's not contribution based. It's just simply you can apply for it because you are a person living with a disability or health condition that has an impact on your day-to-day activities or day-to-day life. So it's not, and you can go and work full time and still get PIP. Okay, Peter, any other comment or
there
question?
used to be a thing called severe disability allowance.
Yeah, it's
gone.
gone.
Yeah, it was it was related to something. It was a income related premium connected to incapacity benefit. So if you lived on your own and you claimed incapacity benefit or ESA for a time, it was you get a severe disability premium. But now universal as part of universal credit, it's going. If you don't. The trick is if you're on it and don't move, don't consider moving house, don't breathe, and you'll remain with it. But as soon as you do, even if your council borders change and you go from one council into another one for nothing, and you're still in the same house, you'll lose it. So yes, so basically
that's sorry.
I get council tax support.
Yeah.
Well, you are very lucky then. Not many people.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, the council tax support is something. The deduction is kind of a difficult one in terms of visually impaired people, because usually you get the council tax deduction if you have a room in your house that you're using because you have a disability, like you have a special bed, wheelchairs, hoist, all kind of things, and you need to kind of use a room just specifically because of your disability and because of all the support that you need to manage your disability. So if you like, it's kind of like an equipment room, and blind and partially sighted people don't really get the council tax deduction because they say, well, you need a magnifier and maybe a smartphone. It isn't going to take up a whole room.
Yeah.
So I never had a client who A applied and then B got it.
I know of about 3 people who got it.
Yeah.
Only because they were really helped by their council to get it. So
but it's not really
I got this on the basis of I had to fill in all my pensions.
Oh, I know. I see. So you get council tax support, support with paying your council tax, yes, rather than council tax reduction through disability.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get that, Dee. Okay. And how much do you? So how much but you have to pay a bit, don't you?
Yes, but it's coming out at about £50-60 a month less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that Tesco
I've just
slogan,
got
is it?
the council tax
Ability
claim
helps.
this morning. I haven't opened it yet, but
So
Yeah,
if you,
interesting.
yeah, if you've got your reduction already, if you've got council tax support in place, it should just tick on into the new year. So everybody. I mean, I got my council tax this morning, and it's gone up by £5 a month. But if I was getting council tax support, then my council tax support would go up as well in line with that. So you'll still have to pay a little extra.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. That's £60 a year, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's to me, it's an awful lot of money that I save.
No.
With that, I was really surprised as I got it.
Yeah, just take it, Peter.
Yeah, it does tell me that you're on pension credit though. So
yeah, exactly.
Because if you weren't on pension credit, you wouldn't be getting it at all. So
yeah,
I'm not on pension credit.
Are you not? Oh, well, there you go. I'll keep your mouth. Yeah.
Katie, have you got any questions or any comments?
No questions, but just thank you very much, Colin.
You're
really
welcome.
informative. I work for Site for Surrey. We have a benefits team, but you know, someone who's seen people in clinic and everything, it's good for me to know a bit more about it. So really interesting.
Yeah,
so,
I like the fact that you've got a team. I have used your team a couple because it's only little old me in the Macular Society. So
oh right, okay, yeah.
People to help out in their local area. So I've used your team.
Okay.
Right, cool. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Thanks, Colin.
Live Well and Future Vision. We hope you have enjoyed this presentation. Live Well events take place on the second Thursday of each month at 10 AM. Future Vision sessions take place on the fourth Thursday of each month at 10 AM. And a technology event aimed at people living with sight loss. To attend the next session or to suggest future topics, please contact your local Sight Society, who will be able to provide you with the Zoom link.